welcome to my channel. Tiffany here of Tiffany Gordon Cosplay, and I'm a full-time costume and prop fabricator as well as educator here on YouTube, and welcome to my channel. Today is the part 2 of the making of my Saiyan armor from Dragon Ball, specifically for my Vegeta cosplay. And if you missed the first video on how I made the armor out of EVA foam, I'll do a link in the description. But before we begin, remember to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Now, let's start. And for this build, you're going to need Plastidip, airbrush gun and compressor, airbrush paint, sealer, faux fur, scissors, Surebonder glue gun and their fabric glue, contact cement glue, Velcro, and of course your safety gear. And I'll have links to all of these products in the description. Now that your EVA foam armor is all made and heat treated, you're going to want to prime your foam. And for this, I used 3 heavy coats of Plastidip onto the top and the bottom part of each of these foam pieces. And after waiting 24 hours for all of the Plastidip to dry, it is then ready to paint. And for me, I used my Iwata Eclipse airbrush gun as well as my Createx Colors Wicked Colors airbrush paint. But if you don't have this, you can always hand paint your pieces. And to start off, we're going to be doing a base coat of white onto all of these surfaces. And then to add a little bit of depth and shadow onto these parts, and for this I used a mixture of jet black and cream, applying this around the edges, kind of giving it some cell-like shading. And then one more time again with white. This way we have a little bit more of a highlight on the center of each of these pieces, and it's just going to make it pop that much more. Now you're going to want to mask each of the white sections, and for this I used Scotch Brand masking tape, applying it first in strips onto my leg, peeling it off my leg, and then putting it onto the white parts. This way it will not remove any of the paint or the Plastidip. Once that's done, it's time to move to the next color, and for this I did a mix of Pyro Orange, Hansa Yellow, and Pearlescent Copper. And this will give you a really nice kind of slight metallic look to the surface. And then to start adding some shadowing around the edges, and for this I added a little bit of jet black into the same mix. Again, doing a little bit of cell shading just to give it dimension. And one more time back with our original color of Pyro Orange, Hansa Yellow, and Pearlescent Copper, kind of giving it a little bit more depth in the center. And then in little lines on the piece, kind of going in U shapes to give it that kind of slight highlight, I did a mix of Hansa Yellow and Pearl Copper, and this is really just going to make it pop. It's going to be such a subtle notice, but it's going to make the armor just look 10 times better. And once all your paint is dry, you can then remove all of the masking tape. Now for some details, and for this, I really wanted to give that anime graphic black line around everything. So for this, I used, again, the airbrush paint, jet black, but this time with a paintbrush and by hand. I did a small black line around all of the edges. And for me, I like to bend my foam pieces to the shape that I want them after they are finished and painted. And this only works if you did all of the painting in my specific order, where you do Plastidip and airbrush paint. So if you're painting this by hand with acrylic paint, it's not gonna work. But for me, I used a heat gun, heated it up, and bent each piece to shape. And if you remember from the first video, I said, do not use the foam dowel rods that I used specifically from Hobby Lobby. The reason being is the foam quality is bad, and when you use a heat gun on top of it, it causes it to crack. And so all of my nice white trim at this point cracked, and I never had this happen before. So it was only with this specific foam dowel edge. Hopefully you used foam from either SKS Props or TNT and not from Hobby Lobby like I did. But because this happened, I had to kind of work with it, and I intentionally went back onto all of my dowel rod areas, and I purposely added more crack. So that way it kind of looked intentional-ish as distress, but it kind of is what it is. Now to seal all of the pieces, and for this I use Createx Colors UVLS Satin, applying it by hand with a paintbrush in even coats throughout the pieces onto the front and the back. You can also apply this using an airbrush gun, but I prefer to do it by paintbrush. And once that's done, it's time for attachments. And for me, with my foam parts, I like to use Velcro, and I highly recommend getting Velcro that has non-adhesive backing. And for this, you'll get your strips, see how long you want them to be, cut them to length, your male and female ends, and then with contact cement glue, apply it to both surfaces onto the back side of your Velcro as well as to the foam parts. Wait for them to fully dry, and then attach your Velcro together. This I always find to be the best option for getting in and out of armor. Now for the tail, and for me I got some brown faux fur from Amazon and then flipped it to the back and drew a line so that way it was a strip about 5 to 6 inches. You want a little bit more than what you're going to need for this process. And then cut it using scissors. I then brushed it with a brush in the direction that the fur laid, and then it's time to attach it to the skirt leg part. And for this, I'm going to be using Surebonder, which is a specific hot glue gun that is really designed for fabrics and for EVA foam. And I had the fur laying downward towards the table, and then had my foam part laying upwards. And then in working in small amounts at a time, starting in the center, applied the hot glue down onto the foam strip belt part, and then would lay the fur on top of it, so that way it would stick, and just apply a little bit of pressure till it cools. I repeated this process for the front part of the belt. Now for the back side. Again, working from the center towards the edges, applying in small amounts, I put the glue onto the back part and then folded the fur on top of it. You should have a lot of extra fur so that way we can trim it later. And once the whole belt was covered in the fur, you then can just use some scissors and slowly trim to the desired length, as well as if it was longer than what you needed, you can trim those off as well. The last step for this will be on the bottom section of the fur where they both meet. You're most likely not going to have them fused together. So what you're going to want to do is, again with the hot glue gun, you're going to apply a little bit of the glue in between the two pieces and then just pinch them together so they fuse to become one, and you can just kind of rub the fur in it and you will no longer see the hot glue. Now for the attachments, and for me, again, I like to use Velcro, and for this I cut 2 pieces of Velcro, a male and a female end, to the length that I wanted it, and for the Velcro that was on the underside, I removed all of the fur so that way it would sit nice and flush. I will note that Velcro for the male end will get the fur stuck in it, so you will want to remove as much fur as possible there so you still have 2 pieces that will come together. And for this, I just again used hot glue to attach it to the fur. And then the belt was done. Velcro on the side! My dress form is too big so it doesn't fit. But you would attach that, and then removable shoulder pads. Loop and loop. Makes it very easy for transportation. And then the skirt belt part, which is just Velcroed in the back. Whoosh-ah! And that, guys, is how I completed and painted all of my Saiyan armor, specifically for my Vegeta cosplay from Dragon Ball. I hope you found this video very helpful for your next build? And if so, let me know in the comments. Like this video and subscribe to the channel. Also, a big thank you to all of my company sponsors as well as all of my members here on YouTube, specifically those legendary members who financially help support me so I can continue to make costumes and bring forth to you more cosplay tutorials. And I will see you for our next tutorial. Much love, guys!